Patrick here in Vancouver, and this is Tesla Shorts Time, daily for June 6th, 2026. The headlines today touch on sourcing decisions, market share shifts in Europe, charging access for other brands, and some real-world quirks that owners are running into with the current hardware and software. I want to walk through each one on its own terms so the business side, the customer side, and the operational side all get their due. Tesla has added a dual-motor all-wheel drive Model 3 built in Shanghai to the Canadian configurator, with deliveries expected soon and a price that lands under $50,000. The move lets buyers here get the AWD configuration without waiting for any changes at Fremont or Texas. It pulls on capacity that already exists in China and routes finished cars through standard ocean shipping and import steps. What stands out is that this undercuts the earlier AWD entry price even after freight and compliance costs are factored in. One clear takeaway is that the marginal expense of moving completed vehicles across the Pacific is apparently lower right now than the cost of retooling domestic lines for the same variant at current volumes. Another is that Tesla's vertical integration edge is showing up as sourcing flexibility rather than a requirement for local final assembly. Watch whether the same trim logic shows up in other right-hand drive or import-friendly markets over the next quarter. If it does, the pattern will tell us how widely the company plans to lean on Shanghai output when North American lines are constrained. That sourcing choice also invites a closer look at how tariffs, logistics, and homologation actually stack up against incremental factory investment. The sub-$50,000 Canadian price sits below previous AWD starting points, which suggests the math on ocean freight is working in Tesla's favor at these volumes. It is worth keeping an eye on whether this approach spreads because it quietly challenges the idea that local assembly is always the necessary route to competitive pricing. Shifting from North American ordering details to Europe, Tesla has now delivered its 300,000th vehicle in the United Kingdom, and has retaken the top spot among EV brands. The milestone comes from steady Model Y and Model 3 registrations through the spring months, helped by ongoing price and trim adjustments. After a stretch of stronger competition, the brand is back in the lead, at least for the moment. One takeaway is that consistent volume on the two high-volume models can still move the needle even when other manufacturers are pushing new crossovers. Another is that the next test will be whether that position holds once summer fleet orders are counted. If it slips again, the pricing and availability tweaks may need another round of refinement. Further south in France, battery electric vehicles took 1/3 of new car registrations last month, with the Model Y outselling every other single model in the segment. The result follows stronger fleet and private uptake after earlier incentive changes. It shows Tesla holding share even as more European brands bring competing crossovers to market. The practical implication is that the Model Y's combination of range, space, and charging access is still resonating with both commercial and retail buyers. The data point to track next is how June totals look once final incentive figures are tallied. Any drop-off there would point to how sensitive demand remains to those policy details. Moving from sales momentum to infrastructure, Ford vehicles will soon gain adapter-based access to the full North American supercharger map, including both the existing Magic Dock stations and the wider non-Magic network. The arrangement expands the usable charging footprint for Ford owners without requiring fresh capital spending from either company. What matters here is that Tesla's network is shifting from a proprietary asset into shared infrastructure that other brands can tap. One implication is that peak hour usage data later this year will show how much additional load the system can absorb before congestion becomes noticeable. Another is that the deal sets a template for how quickly additional automakers could be brought onto the same map if similar agreements follow. On the owner experience side, one Model Y driver traced repeated phantom braking and cruise control dropouts on straight roads to a spider that had made its way inside the forward camera housing. The case illustrates how a single small obstruction can generate repeated false positives in a vision-only system. The owner saw the behavior at highway speeds and noted sudden disengagements of cruise control before spotting the spider during a cleaning check. Tesla has not yet issued a formal service bulletin on spider intrusion, so owners are left to monitor camera lenses themselves during routine cleaning. The takeaway is that even minor environmental factors can surface limitations in the current sensor setup, and the practical step is simply to include lens inspection in regular maintenance. In Phoenix, multiple sightings of cybercab test vehicles show them without side mirrors and with a charging port moved to the front bumper. The mirror deletion lines up with the sensor suite described for unsupervised operation, and local observers note the cars appear to be running in a limited test fleet. The sighting suggests hardware iteration is still active ahead of any wider deployment. The next visible milestone would be any regulatory filing that confirms unsupervised miles driven. Until then, these sightings remain the clearest sign of how the exterior layout is evolving. The official Tesla account posted a reminder that drivers remain responsible for monitoring the environment, and the message accompanies the ongoing supervised full self-driving releases. It restates the current operational design domain while software continues to add capability. The phrasing aligns with regulatory expectations that a human must stay attentive, and future updates will be measured against whether that requirement can eventually be relaxed. One implication is that any relaxation will need to be backed by data showing the system can handle edge cases without constant oversight. A separate owner noted that the cabin overheat protection feature, which pre-cools the interior before entry, consumes extra energy yet still feels worth the range trade-off in daily use. The detail shows how comfort functions can outweigh pure efficiency concerns once a vehicle is part of regular routines. Another driver mentioned that timelines for a production intent vehicle may stretch further than initially expected, pointing to ongoing development hurdles without naming the exact program. That remark fits the pattern of schedule revisions that followers track, and it underscores how iterative the path from prototype to customer car remains. Finally, a short post used the phrase, "The world is healing," in response to a positive development in the broader ecosystem. The comment captures a moment of collective relief amid the technical and regulatory debates that run through the space. It shows how even small wins can shift the tone in fast-moving threads. Keep an eye on whether the Canadian import approach spreads to additional markets in the coming quarter. That will give the clearest signal on how widely Tesla plans to use Shanghai output when domestic lines are busy. That is the Tesla news for today. TSLA closed at $391, down $27.45, or 6.6%. If the show is useful, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify helps new listeners find it. You can also find us on X at Tesla Shorts Time. I am Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening, and I will see you tomorrow. This show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Models and Agents for Beginners a listen. Artificial intelligence explained simply for beginners and curious teens. You can explore the whole lineup at naranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.